Hey, welcome. So today, we're going to talk about something that can completely change the dynamic of a classroom. We're looking at how to take discussions from, just simple Q&A sessions and turn them into these deep, collaborative adventures in learning. We're going to explore a really powerful method for this, the Socratic seminar model. Okay, let's get into it.
We have all seen this happen. Think about a typical classroom. How many times have you heard this exact kind of exchange? The teacher initiates a question, a student gives a quick, factual response, and the teacher evaluates it. Good? This is known as the IRE cycle. And yeah, it's everywhere, but it's also incredibly limiting. It's basically just a memory test, not a real discussion.
So you have to ask, right? Is this pattern really helping anyone think deeply, or is it more like a game of guess what's in the teacher's head? Well, the good news is there is a much, much better way. A way to shift from that simple recall to a rich, student-led exploration. And that is exactly what we're going to break down right now.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get into what the Socratic dialogue actually is and what makes it so different. Then, we'll walk through a really practical 6-step blueprint you can use. After that, we're going to focus on the art of asking really good questions. And finally, we'll look at why this all matters, the amazing benefits for deeper thinking.
Okay, first things first, let's talk about the Socratic dialogue. See, to really get the whole seminar model, you have to understand its foundation, which is this really specific type of conversation. It's all about moving away from the battlefield of a debate and into a shared journey of discovery.
So what even is a Socratic seminar? Well, at its heart, it's a collaborative, student-centered dialogue. And it's not some random chat. It's guided by super thoughtful questions about a common text. And that text could be an article, a piece of art, a poem, even a video clip. It all goes back to Socrates, who had this brilliant idea that knowledge isn't something you pour into someone's head. Instead, it's let out of them through really good questions.
Now, this is maybe one of the most important distinctions to make. A debate, well, it's a fight. The goal is to win. You listen to poke holes in the other person's argument. A dialogue, though, is completely different. It's collaborative. The goal isn't winning, it's understanding together. You listen to find connections, you question your own thinking, and you work as a team to build some common ground. A seminar is a dialogue, period.
All right, so how do you actually make this happen in a classroom? It's not as easy as just throwing some chairs in a circle and saying, go. There's a really clear, structured process, and we can break it down into this handy 6-step blueprint to guide you.
And here it is. These 6 steps are the blueprint. It all starts with the prep work. You choose a great text, and then you plan and cluster your questions. Then you get into the actual experience. You introduce the model to your students so they know the rules, and then you conduct the dialogue. And this is key. It all ends with reflection. You review and summarize what was said, and then you evaluate the whole seminar. That structure is what makes the magic happen.
So let's zoom in on those first 2 steps because they are the absolute foundation. First, you have to pick a text that's rich, something with layers, with ambiguity, something you can't just find a single easy answer to. Then you plan your questions. And this isn't just a random list. You create one central essential question, and then you build out these supporting open-ended questions around it to really guide the conversation.
And that brings us to what is, honestly, the most critical piece of this whole puzzle. The questions you ask are the engine of the seminar. A great seminar lives or dies by the quality of its questions, so let's spend a little time on the actual art of crafting them.
This table right here, this is basically your toolkit. It breaks down the different types of Socratic questions and what they're for. You've got questions for clarification, just to make sure everyone's using words the same way. You've got questions that probe assumptions, to dig into the beliefs behind an argument. Questions that demand evidence from the text. The list goes on. A great facilitator knows how to weave all of these in to keep the dialogue going deeper and deeper.
Okay, on to the main event, the seminar itself. Step 3 is all about setting the stage. You introduce the model and establish the ground rules for a respectful conversation. Then in step 4, you actually have the dialogue. And this is where the role of the teacher just completely flips. You're no longer the sage on the stage who has all the answers. Instead, you become the guide on the side, helping facilitate, asking follow-up questions, and just creating that safe space for the students to really lead the way.
Now, this is so important. The learning does not end when the discussion is over. That's what steps 5 and 6 are for. It's all about reflection. First, students get together and summarize the big ideas and breakthroughs from the conversation. Then they actually evaluate the seminar and their own participation in it. This step, which is called metacognition, basically thinking about your own thinking, that's what makes the learning really stick.
So we've walked through the how,
But now let's get to the really exciting part, the why. Why go to all this trouble? Let's dig into the incredible benefits of using this model and the kind of impact it can have on how students think and work together.
The benefits here are huge, and they go way beyond just knowing more stuff. Sure, academic knowledge goes up, but this approach also develops critical thinking, real reasoning, and active listening skills. It helps students learn to cooperate and builds a genuine community of learners in the classroom. And like we just talked about, it builds those super important metacognitive skills. It really is about developing the whole student.
It's also really important to remember that even with that clear blueprint, this model is incredibly flexible. This is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Actually, one of its biggest strengths is how easily you can adapt and personalize it to meet the needs of every single learner in the room.
And this chart shows you exactly how. You can tweak things in 4 key areas. First, through your text choice. Maybe you use a video or a song instead of an article. Second, in your question planning, by tailoring questions to different levels. Third, you can create different participation roles, like having an inner circle for discussion and an outer circle for observation. And finally, you can offer different follow-up products, so students can show what they learned in ways that work for them.
When you boil it all down, this quote really says it all. The goal of a Socratic seminar isn't to get to one final correct answer. The goal is the process. It's the act of thoughtfully engaging with a tough question, using evidence, and doing it together with others. The journey of the inquiry is the destination.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. These principles aren't just for a classroom. They're about a better way to communicate and to learn with each other. So think about your own life, maybe at work or with your family. What's one conversation you could totally transform by intentionally choosing dialogue over debate?
And that's our look at the Socratic seminar model. Thanks so much for joining us.